Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about baby-led weaning, and I'm so excited. If you guys are new around here, my name is Becca. I'm a registered dietitian, and I make lots of videos here on my channel about nutrition and wellness, non-toxic living, lifestyle, motherhood, all of that fun stuff. I'm so excited to talk about this finally on my channel because I've been asked about it so much, and also I've just really enjoyed baby-led weaning, and I've just found it to be such an awesome way to introduce foods to my daughter and include her in meal times and all of that, and I've just really enjoyed our experience. So let's just dive right in. So baby-led weaning technically is just baby self-feeding. It has nothing to do with weaning off of breast milk or formula. In fact, it is, you continue to feed the same amount of milk as you did before. When you start to introduce solid foods, they're just a fun addition. Later on, baby might start to wean a little bit from, breast milk or formula, but typically it's just food in addition to what they're already getting, so that they can start to experiment and learn about food and how to eat food and just try all different kinds of tastes and textures. So with baby-led weaning, you feed baby real whole food. Now it's usually finger foods or foods that are cut down to a size that's appropriate for a baby to eat, but there is, no purees. You're not pureeing up any food. You're not spoon feeding, at least not for the most part. It's a really natural progression for babies as far as self-regulation goes, and it really allows them to work on trusting their own body and their own cues and regulating themselves and how much they need to eat, and also really just like building confidence around food and mealtimes. And probably my most favorite part of baby-led weaning is it makes it so easy for baby to just join the whole family in the meal. A lot of times you can give them exactly what you're eating, and they just really feel a part of the group, and they can just eat themselves just like everyone else, and they're not being like spoon-fed. Now obviously there are tons of babies out there who are spoon-fed and are given purees first. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It all comes down to personal preference, and for me, I actually thought that I would spoon feed. I just kind of was looking forward to that experience with my daughter, like the whole spoon feeding thing. And then the more I looked into it, the more I just felt like baby-led weaning was right for us. And I'm so glad that I went with it. It's definitely the right thing for us, and we've really enjoyed it. Okay, so first up, when do you start? The general time is around 6 months, but really you want to make sure that you're looking at your own baby's readiness cues, because we all know that every baby is different and they all develop on slightly different schedules. So some readiness cues to be on the lookout for is, first and foremost, if your baby can sit up unassisted all by themselves, that's a huge readiness cue. Another one is if they're able to do like a pincher grasp. Another is when they lose that tongue thrust reflex, basically when you put something in their mouth and they just immediately push their tongue out to get rid of it. That's just like a reflex they have as a little baby. Once that goes away, that is definitely a readiness cue that they're ready for real food. And then lastly, you'll see that your baby will really start to get interested in your food. They'll be looking at your plate, they'll be watching you eat. They might even try and reach and grab something off of your plate. They get very interested in food and want to start exploring. So we did start right around that 6-month mark when Hayden was ready, and we started with just one meal a day. I think we just did breakfast. And then as we went on, we slowly added in lunch and then dinner as well. And right around the 8-month mark, she was eating like a solid 3 meals a day. Okay, next let's talk a little bit about safety. So I feel like there is a lot of fear around baby-led weaning. All of a sudden just handing over whole chunks of food to a little tiny baby can be really scary because you're afraid that they might choke. So obviously baby-led weaning requires some serious close supervision. You have to be really keeping an eye on your baby to make sure that they're not at risk of choking. But one thing I will recommend to you guys is right here on YouTube, there are a bunch of videos that you can watch that show a baby gagging versus actually choking, which are two totally different things. Gagging is just a normal reflex that babies might use if food gets a little too far back in the mouth. It just helps get it back to the front where they can chew it up. So gagging is totally normal. We definitely did see some gagging with Hayden, not a whole lot. Overall, it really was not that scary. But I will say, if it feels really scary to you, you don't have to do it. Baby-led weaning is just one way that you can feed your baby. And if it's becoming this really stressful situation, then it's no longer fun for anyone. So just maybe try it again in a couple months when you feel more comfortable. But also another thing to note actually is, as babies age, as they get older, their gag reflex actually goes further and further and further back in their mouth. So one major benefit to baby-led weaning and starting on whole foods, appropriately cut foods early on, is their gag reflex is a lot higher up in their mouth, so their ability to choke is potentially less because their gag reflex is just so much more sensitive and food is not getting as far back into their mouth, if that makes sense. And another thing to look out for, and this is for any baby, however you're feeding, but you always want to make sure that they are growing and gaining weight appropriately. If you are baby-led weaning and maybe baby is not gaining enough weight, maybe it is a good idea to, add in some purees or smoothies or something like that just to kind of bolster them up if they're not getting enough calories just on their own. That did not happen to us, but it's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Probably one of the biggest positives of baby-led weaning, especially if you are passionate about intuitive eating like myself, is it really is allowing baby to eat intuitively. You provide the food, but they decide what they're going to eat, how much they're going to eat, at what pace they're going to eat. They really set the scene. It's baby-led. So you're allowing them to explore food, whether they want to actually eat it, whether they just want to squish it in their hands, however they want to experience it, they are given the freedom to do so. And it really, like I said, creates that strong connection with their own self-regulation tools. It really helps them just experience food without any pressure. And it really is just really nicely leads itself to, raising an intuitive eater. Now, one of the biggest cons, I would say, is baby-led weaning can be pretty messy. Spoon feeding a baby pretty much keeps the food in a very small area, but with baby-led weaning, stuff can go everywhere. It will get all over baby, their face, their hands, likely their clothes if they're wearing some, on the floor, all over their high chair. I mean, it can be a mess. Not every food is messy, but there are certain foods where you just know it's gonna be a major cleanup. But, it's part of the fun, letting them just kind of enjoy that. Next, I wanna talk a little bit about specific foods that I loved to give Hayden. Now, obviously, like I said, you always wanna make sure that you're cutting up all foods appropriately for a young baby, and I always just turn to Pinterest. There are so many resources and blog posts and things like that out there that show you all different kinds of pictures of how to cut up certain fruits and vegetables and things like that, so that baby can hold on to them and be able to eat them. And that I found super helpful. Another thing I found so helpful, I'll link it down below, is Mama Natural. She's also on YouTube. She also has a huge blog. She has a baby-led weaning ebook, and I loved that because she gives tons of different recipes, and it's like broken down by like 6 months, 7 to 8 months, or whatever. And it's really nice because it just gives you like a plethora of things to try. So if you feel like you're in a rut, I would always go back to that and just look to try something new. And it's very varied. She's got all different kinds of recipes in there. So I loved that resource. But as far as specific foods we love to give Hayden, as far as fruits, she loves berries, and berries are super easy because they're soft for the most part, and you can just give them right to them. She also loves apples and pears, which I would like steam or saute to like cook down and make soft. Up until she was like 8 months, I always cut the skin off. She also loves cut up grapes. Bananas were kind of hit or miss, but really any fruit, as long as you're cutting it up appropriately or cooking it so that it's soft enough, totally fair game. Veggies. Okay, so she definitely has her favorites, and she definitely has others that she's not a huge fan of, but I just keep introducing them because it can take a really long time for kids to actually accept a food. They might have to try it a bunch of times before they decide they actually like it. Some of her favorites are green beans. She loves carrots, squash, so-so on broccoli. She's had a lot of zucchini. She likes tomatoes, especially if they're like cooked, like stewed tomatoes. Cucumber are another good one. Asparagus if they're like cut up. And then she also, as far as like starchy vegetables, she loves sweet potatoes and regular potatoes. And for veggies, most of the time I just roast them for her. So I will cut them up into whatever appropriate size and drizzle them with some avocado oil and garlic powder. That's usually it. And roast them in the oven so that they're nice and cooked and soft, and she loves them. As far as meats, we do a decent amount of meat. So she loves any kind of ground meat, ground turkey, grass-fed ground beef, ground lamb. Sometimes we'll just cook it up in a pan and just give her the little pieces ground up. or we'll make like little meatballs or little patties and just kind of break them up and give her like chunks of those. She loves meat. We'll also do chicken as well. She likes chicken, so whether it's just like cooked out of like chicken noodle soup, or we'll cut it up into little strips or little cubes and she'll eat it that way. She is a big fan of meat. It's actually kind of funny. And meat is actually a really good food to give babies when they're really young, which might sound weird, but that's because once they hit that like 7-month mark, their iron and zinc stores start to dip because they're running out of what they had from when they were born. So meat is a really good way to replenish those stores. Eggs are also good for that, especially the egg yolk. We have not had good luck with eggs yet. I introduce them every once in a while. Hayden's not a big fan, but you can just give them hard-boiled egg yolk, or even a little bit later on, just scramble up some eggs and just give them like that. For fats, we do mostly avocado oil for her with roasting, and then also grass-fed butter. But some other good choices are coconut oil or like full-fat coconut milk. You definitely want to make sure you're getting a little bit of fat, in your baby's diet, but also remember that they are getting fat from their breast milk or formula as well. Now for dairy, she has had, like I said, grass-fed butter. There's certain things that I would cook with butter all throughout her baby-led weaning journey. But also now that she just turned 1 a few days ago, so she's now technically a toddler. So we're moving on to toddler meals, I guess. But we've now started to introduce more dairy, so we'll do some yogurt, or she loves like cut up cheese. But we kind of waited until like the year mark to start introducing those. And then lastly, for grains, we don't do a whole lot of grains except for oatmeal. She loves oatmeal. She now eats oatmeal almost every single morning. It wasn't like that from the beginning, but she loves oatmeal with some fruit and peanut butter. And then we do some pasta here and there. She loves her spaghetti, but typically you want to not go crazy with the grains in their during their baby-led weaning journey, mainly because they are just very filling and they can easily replace something that's more nutrient dense, like a fruit or a vegetable or even a meat. So I tried to be a little bit more conscious with how much grains I gave her, but she does do oatmeal like most mornings. Okay, speaking of most mornings, I want to give some examples of like what she eats in a day. So nowadays, like I said, she'll have oatmeal with usually some kind of berry, so strawberries or blackberries. She loves blackberries, blueberries, any kind of berries, and then really any kind of fruit in the morning, along with her oatmeal. In the very beginning, when we first got started, she pretty much just had fruit for breakfast. She loved like sliced up steamed apples with cinnamon, basically any kind of fruit. That's what she would have for breakfast, and then later on we introduced the oatmeal as well. For lunch each week, just to make it easy on myself, I would typically just prep something for her to have each day. So I would usually pick 1 meat and 1 vegetable, cut it all up and cook it all up and just do it once, so that each day, we had it prepped and ready to go, which probably isn't the best for variety, but you got to make it easy on yourself in some ways. So that's what we would do every day for lunch. So for example, we would do like ground turkey patties made with some garlic powder and sweet potatoes, or we would do some like ground beef and zucchini or something like that. I would always use like a protein and like a vegetable, sometimes a fruit, but usually just a vegetable. And then for dinner, she just has whatever we have. Most nights of the week we do cook, and we cook a variety of different healthy meals. So she just has a little bit of what we have. So if we're having like quinoa and chicken and a vegetable, she'll have a little bit of each of those. If we're having chili, she'll just have her own little, I'll just spoon some chili right onto her high chair tray. She loves chili. But literally whatever we're having is what she has for dinner 99% of the time. And she loves it, and it's a good way for her to try a bunch of different foods. Okay, you guys, so that is kind of everything I wanted to share about baby-led weaning. Remember, it's supposed to be fun. It's all about exploration. There's no pressure for baby to really eat anything. It's totally up to them. You provide and they decide. That is always a good motto to follow when feeding children in general, not just babies. So trust them to figure it out on their own. Obviously keep a very close eye to make sure that they are safe. But other than that, just have fun with it, enjoy it. It is so fun to watch babies explore food, especially in the very early days, because they're so confused and they're just like putting it in their mouth and spitting it out. And then eventually they actually start to eat it, and it's pretty adorable. And I love that they can join in on the family meals. I think it's like honestly the highlight of Hayden's day. She loves just sitting with us and eating and, you know, trying to babble and talk to us, and it's just the sweetest thing. So I hope that you guys found this video helpful. I have really enjoyed baby-led weaning, and if it's something that you're interested in, I wish you the best of luck. I hope it's awesome. I hope you guys really enjoy it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would love to have you join our community here, and make sure to follow me on Instagram as well, because I'm always on there chatting with you guys. But like I said, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.